You're listening to The Harmony of We, a space for remembering what we already are together. I'm Greg Kuiper, counselor, author, and fellow traveler in this ongoing field of being human. This podcast isn't about fixing. It's not about getting relationships right. It's about coming into resonance with yourself, with each other, and with the presence that lives in between. This is where the book Relationship, The Harmony of We continues, in breath, in story, and in shared awareness. Welcome. Whether you're someone who followed my past podcast, At the Root, or you're arriving here for the first time, I am so deeply grateful you are here with me. It's been a couple of years since I last did this. And back then, it was a live broadcast on a radio show each week that then got recorded as a podcast episode. Those episodes are still out there and being listened to. And since then, I've been on quite a journey, an evolution into a deepening of my understanding of relationship and connection with others and with ourselves. And it's been an awakening for me, with the knowing that I've got enlightened perspectives to share, with the hope of all of us finding a new path to connection and leaving separation in the dust behind us. This podcast is part of my next step, a continuation, but also something new, a deepening, an unfolding of possibility. For those of you who don't know me yet, I'll offer just a bit of the backstory. For many years, I bounced around with jobs and starting businesses. It was a chaotic time in my life, as I also spent those years in addiction. But in finding sobriety, I found something I didn't even know I was missing: emotional awareness. That discovery didn't just change my life, it gave me one. I became a substance use disorder counselor, then a psychotherapist, and a holistic life coach. I held space for a lot of people looking for guidance and help. And I hosted At the Root, the podcast we just spoke about, that ran for over 100 episodes. And through all that, I began to see more and more clearly. The real key wasn't tactics or treatment protocols. It was connection, real soul-level connection. And that connection starts with awareness. That podcast was built around that idea: connection through awareness. It served a powerful purpose. And that led me to a knowing that the world of self-help, therapy modalities and structured intervention, is a stepping stone to the next level of awareness, honoring the we, the space between us in relationships. I see this as a movement from self-help into what I call soul help. That's where this podcast begins. The Harmony of We is about the energetic relationship between human beings. Not in the self-help sense of here's how to fix yourself or your partner, but in the soul sense of how we show up to one another. It's about healing, not fixing; presence, not performance. It's not a set of steps to follow. It's a space to return to what has always been within us. This podcast exists to invite you to remember that presence, to attune to the energy between you and another, whether that other is a partner, a child, a friend, or your own inner being. Whether you're in the middle of relationship challenges or just feeling that whisper inside that says, there has to be more than this. I wrote a book during this exploration, Elationship, The Harmony of We. It can be found on Amazon or at my website, gregkuiper.com. But this isn't going to be about selling books, not at all. However, I will say that the feedback so far has been very, very positive. So that helps me to know that I'm on the right track. If you've been immersed in personal growth content over the years, the books, the workshops, the quick fix videos, you may have found, like I did, that much of it can feel performative. It tells us what to do, but it rarely invites us to simply be, to listen, to feel, to attune. My work now is about helping people find that inner stillness so they can meet each other in presence. Finding safety in vulnerability and authenticity and not fear. Because the real relationship isn't happening in our words or daily routines. It's happening in that space between us. The field of energy that's there between us. You felt it. When you're in the presence of another and you feel so connected, so in tune, in harmony, you've also felt it when you go into a space that is energetically negative, right? You don't want to be there. It's uninviting and even scary. What you feel is the space between. The energetic field of the individuals in that space in disarray and unable to connect. Attunement and harmony is not possible. You have to leave that space. I can't be here. I got to get out of here. We are energetic beings, always transmitting, always receiving, always attuning. There's always that space between us. What is happening in that space? What is our part in that happening? This is the sacred dance of relationship. And my hope is that the harmony of we becomes a space where we can explore this together without pressure, without judgment. So here's the shape of things to come. These episodes will be around 20 to 30 minutes. Some of them will be reflective teachings from me. Others might include storytelling, voices from imagined or real couples, or excerpts from my book, Elationship, The Harmony of We. And eventually, who knows, you may hear from guests and fellow travelers on the path. Most of all, each episode is intended as a gentle nudge back into your heart, a breath of space, presence. We'll explore things like emotional energy and the unseen field between us, stories of disconnection and reconnection, the illusions that keep us in fear, and the beauty of remembering that love, presence, and harmony are already within us. We just have to remember where we left them. And from time to time, I might bring in a lightly dramatized example, something from a couple from the sessions I've had over the years. Just a small window into how our stories, our wounds, and our longings show up in the dynamic between us. I'll let you know when those are coming, and they're never intended as advice. They're here to reflect us back to ourselves. Because as we listen to the stories of others, we often find our own voice quietly awakening. Let me tell you a short story. It's fictional, but not really. A couple walks into the therapy room. They sit down, not next to each other, but apart. Not angrily, just apart. There's kind of a hum in the room. Not tension, but just something else. They begin to talk, not to each other, but to me. They talk about things, about communication, about schedules, about how tired they are. But beneath their words, I can feel it. That subtle field between them. It's been muted, unheard, forgotten. And then one of them says, I don't know who we are anymore. That's the moment. That's when we begin. We don't begin by fixing anything. We begin by listening, by allowing, by turning toward the frequency of the we. Now, let me ask you, where are you in your own relationships? Not just your romantic ones, but all of them. Where do you feel yourself disconnecting? Where do you long for presence? What do you feel in the space between you and those you love? Take a moment. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply. Sense space, that space that you're just feeling now. That's the doorway. Before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to honor At the Root. That podcast and all of you who listen to it were part of something foundational. It was the seedbed where much of this current work took root. Back then, I spoke often about emotional connection and the importance of awareness. Those truths haven't changed. What's shifted is the ground beneath them. I've moved beyond a language of intervention into a language of resonance, from behavior to being. The transition from connection through awareness to the harmony of we is not a leap, it's an unfolding, like the blooming of a flower that was already inside the seed. Same root system, deeper now. We are still exploring connection, but now we understand. Connection is not something we create, it's something we remember. So, welcome. Let this be a place you return to when the world gets loud. Let this be a companion as you journey back into connection. You don't have to do anything, just be and feel. Breathe. Your harmony is already here. Next week, we'll begin exploring the foundational principles of relationship, how we attune, how we relate, and how emotional energy becomes a bridge to healing. Until then, the healing begins in the space between us. May you walk in the harmony of we. See you next time.